GMJ, welcome to the show. I wanted to have you on the podcast today. I know that you're kind of remote and out in the middle of nowhere, but I wanted to have you on. I know that you're doing this incredible drop today. The artwork is absolutely beautiful. Let's start the podcast off just with introducing yourself, just kind of what you're doing, I guess, just right now. You don't have to go to, just like a 30-second intro of just kind of like who you are and what you're doing right now.
Thank you so much, man. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, so I kind of had this dream of driving the longest road that you can drive on the North American continent, which is from Florida to the Arctic Ocean to Prudhoe Bay, way up in like northern Alaska. And I've been wanting to do this specific drive for a long, long time because there's just so much like off-road exploration that you can do in between Florida and the Arctic Ocean. So I spent about 2 years mapping out a route to get to Dead Horse, to get to the Arctic Ocean with as much like off-road kind of like really remote trailing that I could possibly find. There's this network of abandoned gold rush roads that go all through British Columbia. And the idea was pretty much north of Vancouver to not touch pavement until I got to Alaska. And I succeeded. I drove about 15,000 miles between Florida and the Arctic Ocean, and about 6,000 of that was entirely off-road. So just an enormous amount of like mapping and navigating and bushwhacking and trying to kind of interconnect all these really remote abandoned roads that, some of them are used as like access trails at this point, or at least, connector trails between more traveled roads. But for the most part, who knows the last time any of these roads have actually been driven. There were sections where I would spend 6-7 days at a time without seeing or hearing a person. So it really felt crazy. It felt remote. It felt it was pretty challenging, pretty intense at times. And I kind of just got finished with that long line, this route that I spent the last few years mapping. I made it to the Arctic Ocean last week, and I jumped in it, and now I'm kind of trying to plan my route back south. So that's where I'm at.
I don't know if you said how many miles have you gone?
I drove 15,000 miles between Florida and Alaska.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was a crazy trip, dude.
15,000 miles.
15,000 miles.
And like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm assuming like you're sleeping in your car.
Yeah. I built out a truck. It's an SUV. It has kind of everything I need, and I travel pretty rugged in it. And I honestly, man, love it. It's worth it to kind of get to the places I get to, and then be able to, spend as long as I want in those places. It's like a dream for me, and I mean, it's very conducive to what I do and how I shoot. I like for my photos to come from really, really wild places, and this is kind of the way that I do that. So
Yeah, dude, you're like the type I feel like that can sleep anywhere. Like you could sleep on you could sleep on like the floor of like, the wood, the forest. You could sleep in the Arctic Circle as like long as you're able to like take your, pictures and like, do your art. I think you're fine with it.
I think that's true. I think I'm happy almost anywhere. Yeah.
That's rad, man. And the photo that you got, first off, I have to say, like, I remember like the other like last week or whatever when you teased it, and I was like, obviously, I was stoked because I love your work, and I was like,
Thanks, man.
oh, this is gonna be like obviously like this is gonna be a dope landscape or because I know your like style, and I was like, this is gonna be
Hmm.
great. and then you pop up with this thing, and I'm just like, bro, this is one of the most epic photos I've seen come out of out of your portfolio. And like, I don't know, the stationary leaf that's like sitting on the ox like that, I feel like that is like that's such a rare moment, and like it's captured just so perfectly, and just kind of like how your style, like it's like it's flowing, and you can just kind of like feel like the animal flowing in the wind. It's just, bro, it's soulful, it's perfect, it speaks, it's everything that a photograph should be. Like you really killed it on this. But I want to hear kind of your perspective on just what it was to get the shot, and just talk a little bit about the image, because it really is mind blowing, man.
Dude, thank you so much. That that means so much to me. I feel, honestly, I feel humbled. I mean, I feel really like if I mean, I just think that if you ever are given the opportunity to take an image like that of a wild creature outside of like a preserve, outside of a zoo, outside of some kind of orchestrated event, that's just a gift. It's like this massive gift from the animal, from the land, from the universe. I mean, I don't know. It sounds kind of, you know, like it sounds kind of crazy, but I genuinely think that it's just like it's this connection between humans and nature that just doesn't come often. And I've spent a lot of time traveling and outdoors and in nature, and it's just so rare to ever get to see an animal like that. At first, you mentioned the leaf. I thought it was a tracking tag, and I was a little bit confused because I didn't think that people tracked muskox. But I saw that bit of yellow in his fur, and then I got closer, and I realized that it was this changing color for fall leaf out of the brush. And it just, I don't know, it made the whole shot kind of come together. I don't think it would be the same image at all without that bit of color kind of grounding the whole composition um in my opinion. But I I got that shot. So I've always loved muskox. I think they're like one of the coolest animals out there. I think any animal that thrives above the Arctic Circle is pretty, hardcore.
Totally, totally, dude.
That's a pretty intense animal.
Yeah.
Um, and muskox are only found in the wild above the Arctic Circle, usually well above the Arctic Circle. So places like Greenland and the Northwest Territories and way up in Alaska. And I just love them. I think they have such a presence, such a spirit, and like a personality about them. And I've always wanted to take a photo of one, but usually how you see them, they're pretty skittish by nature. The muskox actually has more in common with like a goat than it does with like a cow or any kind of more naturally like docile, like domestic creature. So they're actually pretty skittish, and they really don't like being close to people. In the same way that a goat, you start to approach one, and they'll scurry up a wall super fast. Muskox are kind of the same way, and so usually if you're in the tundra, you're way up in the Arctic, you see them. They're common to see, but they're usually like little brown like blobs on the horizon. And if you start to get close, they kind of wander the opposite direction pretty quickly. So I had taken a few photos. I was up there above the Arctic Circle for about 2 weeks, and I had gotten a few shots of muskox in that way, kind of like way out on the horizon. And I had just been dreaming of getting a better shot of one because I just love this animal. And on my last day up there, where I had kind of planned to turn around and start heading south, I went and you take a little shuttle up through Dead Horse because it's a big processing plant, and so you can't really drive yourself the last like 2 miles. You have to take a shuttle, which is whatever. It's a big refinery. So I took the shuttle. I jumped into the Arctic Ocean. It was really cold. You'd think that they would name it something that let you know how cold it was going to be. But anyway, I got
Okay,
out.
yeah.
It was like this really healing experience. It was awesome. And I started driving south, and I decided to take this road, this side shoot that I had seen coming in a few days earlier, and I hadn't taken. And I drove as far down that road as I possibly could, and I stopped and I started walking through the brush, which the brush up there is only maybe 2 feet tall. It's not much. And I just started walking toward this lake I had found. It's kind of cool how much marshy, swampy water is up there. And I started walking toward this lake, and as soon as I got over this little small hill of brush, there was this ox just laying at the edge of the water with his whole face kind of buried in the edge of the water and the edge of the lake, just sitting there all alone, all by himself, just staring directly at me. And I know I surprised him. I know he wasn't expecting to see a human out there, and I certainly wasn't expecting to see him out there, but I had brought my camera, and I decided that I was just going to sit with this creature for as long as it took for me to feel like I wasn't taking something from him, like I was sharing in this moment with him. Um, I don't know. I feel like I'm in his land. I'm at his lake. And so I just kind of sat and I took out my camera and I kept it off for about 10 minutes, and I just sat with this animal, and I decided I didn't want to take a picture of like a startled muskox that was unsure of me or uncertain like why I was there. I just wanted to sit for a minute and let us both kind of settle in. And I told myself that if he got up and he walked off, that was that, and I wasn't supposed to get that picture. But if he stayed and he kind of like relaxed, I would take a shot. And so he had kind of gotten startled. He got up a bit. I immediately stopped and kind of sat down. I didn't want to bother him. And then after about a minute, he just laid back down. He just laid back down and hung out and kind of, huffed, and then started minding his own business again. And so I felt like that was a good sign to take this shot. And I did. I took one image, and that's it. That's the shot that you see. And we
That was
sat
just
to
one image.
that was one shot. That's it.
Whoa.
One shot. I took my shot. I put my camera back down, and I just kind of hung out with the ox for another maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then it's honestly started snowing so hard that I decided it was about time to walk back, and so yeah, I left, and he hung out, and that's that's my ox.
Yeah, that's magical. That is absolutely magical, man.
It was awesome. It was a very humbling experience, honestly. I think any encounter with an animal like that is powerful, especially one that I think just like kind of embodies the spirit of the north of the Arctic.
Hmm.
Um, it's a cool creature. Also, I don't know. I think there's something. There's like a powerful kind of strength in that animal in particular. We the early people to Alaska who migrated up to Alaska hunted the muskox to extinction in that part of the world, and then a few decades after nobody had seen a muskox since in the Northwest Territories or in Alaska, people decided that creature was sacred, and the surrounding kind of Arctic environment had lost this like sacred, powerful creature that was meant to sort of watch over the tundra, and the people had hunted it to near non-existence. So in the 1920s, the Arctic Wildlife uh, Fund in Alaska had this massive event where we transported a bunch of muskox from Greenland to an island off the coast of Alaska, rehabilitated them and bred them, and then released them into the wild and made it illegal to hunt them. So all of the muskox that exist now in the Northwest Territories and in northern Alaska are imported from Greenland and are descendants of those imported Greenland muskox, and are now sort of like protected and considered to be a sacred part of the tundra. And I just think that that animal in particular has a really cool connection with humans, and I feel very honored to have had that moment with this ox and be able to share it with everybody.
Yeah, when you say like spiritual, like I'm staring at the photo right now, a manifold, and the 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 leaves. I know, like I keep going back to the leaves, but it looks like it's just like very Inuit, like very like Native American.
Hmm.
It's yeah, like there, it's almost like decoration, like it's wearing an earring, even though like I know that's not where the ear is. It almost like feels like that with the way that you captured it. Um, I want to know, so how you captured this image. It's a very unique angle. It's very special. Like I want to know what came over you, like what came through your mind that you wanted to have like the horn. Like did you already vision this picture before you had shot it? Because like the horn is just in like this perfect spot. It's just like it's a perfect, like it's a vertical. I can't go into like how just like beautiful the angle is. And I just kind of like want to know like what went through your mind to capture it this way specifically.
So for me, it was just the part of the animal that I couldn't stop looking at. Like I was just staring at him with my camera, pointed at the ground for a while, and I he just kind of like I think it was the way that he was sitting. His face was kind of smushed into the ground against the lake. It almost looked like he was thirsty but like too lazy to like lift his head up. So his head was kind of smushed into the ground, and then he was kind of like loafing, almost like how a cat does, where all of his legs were sort of folded up under him. So he just looked like this kind of Star Wars creature. And I felt like any picture I took of him at that angle wouldn't really show this sort of like not not like haunting, but almost like enchanting presence of the animal, because he looked like somewhat silly in the position he was in, because he had all of his legs folded up under him and he had his face like smushed in the dirt. And so I felt like taking a picture of the whole animal wasn't like wouldn't really portray what I felt from him being there, because what I felt was like wisdom and strength and power, and this really like wise, intelligent, almost like deity like creature. I mean, I felt like I was in the presence of like Boreas, like an old ancient god. It was, which is where the title comes from. He felt very powerful. But if you just looked at him, he had his face smushed in the dirt and all of his legs under him, and he was kind of, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't look how he felt. And so I was trying to take a picture of how he felt. not how he looked necessarily in the moment. And so I thankfully had a big old lens on my camera, and I just zoomed way, way in until I felt like the parts of his stance and stature that were taking away from his presence, I had kind of cropped out with my zoom, and I could get just his kind of spirit, which I think you see in like his horn and his eye and that little water droplet kind of like hanging off of his horn. And I thought that it was a better way to represent kind of the soul of the animal, you know, without his face smushed in the dirt. So,
There's also like this splash of like light that's to the left,
hmm.
and it's just like it's captured and it's framed so perfectly, and it's like this just perfect moment where the light is shining down on this old god, and it's just like the way you captured this with the lighting. I'm just like I'm still staring at it. I'm going to be interested to see if this doesn't win like like photograph like of the year or something with National Geographic. This
Thank you,
is
man.
yeah, this is one of those pieces. I want to know more technically about it. As I
Yeah.
zoom in, like I can see like the fur almost. It's almost like it's waving with like color, like it's almost like watercolors. Like, and as a photographer, I'm trying to understand how you did that, man. Like, is
Yeah.
this yeah, like is this long? And I hate to ask you like your specs on this, but I'm like, dude, is this a long
No, you're
exposure? Like,
good.
yeah, what did you do to get like these prisms almost that are shining off of the fur?
You're good. Yeah. So it was extremely wet. Everything was like wet. Everything was glistening and wet. It had been pouring rain all day. And then about an hour before I went down that trail, it started snowing like really heavy. And so everything was wet, and I think that really helped kind of like tweak the colors of the ox's fur a lot.
Hmm.
The light in the Arctic is really interesting because you get these thick clouds, but since there's no mountains or trees, there's nothing to block the wind, and it makes this really interesting uh, phenomenon. It has a name that is escaping me at the moment, but essentially the clouds overhead rest at a perfect level, and they travel super fast, super fast. And so if you ever watch the light kind of like change over the tundra, it changes, I mean, second by second by second, in the way that you would expect flight to kind of slowly drift and shift, over the course of 10 minutes or 15 minutes. It feels like it's changing that amount every second because these clouds are just rolling overhead like faster than you can imagine. So I think the idea was to kind of just take a picture of one of those moments when the sun was on the animal, and when all of his fur was sort of glistening with all this, all the snow and all the water. And I don't know. I think it's just one of the most perfect environments to take pictures because there's no like harsh sun. There's no crazy shadows. It's just flat, wet, neutral lighting all the time. So it's really like it's really conducive to getting a shot that almost looks like you took it in a studio, you know,
Hmm.
um, just because of the environment that you're in. So I took it with a 500 millimeter, pushed all the way in. So I was pretty close to him to shoot that with a 500. I'd say maybe 30, 40 feet away,
Okay.
maybe less. So that was a 500 mil pushed almost all the way in. I think I shot that at 490. And in the edit, in the post, I thought it would be really cool to only have his hair that was like brightest to be showing, because all the hair on the outside was those long strips of kind of glistening sort of matted fur, and then he had all this other fur kind of like right behind that honestly I don't even think was like wet from the rain, just because he's such a furry creature. So I just dropped the plaques down to the point that all of the fur that was behind that outside wet glistening fur just kind of like became the background of the image, and the only fur that you see is the bright wet fur on the outside. So it was really just honestly luck with having the light and the neutral environment that I was in, which you get often in the tundra, and then dropping the plaques way down to where his like fur that was closer to his skin became just sort of like a wall of plaque, like a a background, and the fur on the outside that was being hit by the light became what you see.
It's such a trip, yeah. And then like his eye looks so soulful as well. It's so ancient. Um, with this image, I want to know kind of just behind it what I feel like there was definitely like an intention when you were trying to capture this. Like this almost feels, and I'm not trying to speak for you, but it does kind of feel almost like the pinnacle of your trip. Like this was kind of like that peak moment. And I want to kind of like just ask you, like, was that moment, and how did it feel?
It was so much the pinnacle of this trip that I cannot explain how much it was. I mean, it was uh, g- genuinely. I mean, after 15,000 miles and thousands of miles on these really rugged, challenging off-road trails. I mean, this was the point. I had jumped into the Arctic Ocean the same day that I got this shot. I mean, it was absolutely the pinnacle of the trip. I had achieved this kind of lifelong dream of driving to and jumping into the Arctic. The Arctic. I had completed every network of trails and off-road challenges that I had kind of created for myself. I had kind of overcome many like logistic and mechanical challenges at that point, and I had gotten there. I mean, I was still, I think my hair was still wet from jumping in the Arctic Ocean. I took this picture of this ox. I mean, it was it was the exact like U-turn of this grand adventure when you get kind of this feeling in your head of like, okay, well, like, what's next? I mean, I was even thinking to myself, okay, so I'm gonna, I have all my footage from the trip up here. Like, do I even want to shoot a whole lot on the way back, or do I want to treat it as like a vacation? I mean, I was even kind of like loosening my grip on the trip and just kind of like feeling like the trip I took is kind of done, and now I'm going to be on to something else, and I'll attribute any photos or footage I took from that trip to being what it is, and then everything that comes now, if it comes, it comes, and I wasn't really planning on chasing anything, and I I was kind of like entering into this mindset of like, yeah, to the next on to the next adventure, and then I got not only inarguably the best photo of the trip, but like potentially one of the best photos of my entire, career as a photographer, at least as far as I'm concerned. I feel incredibly humbled in every way to have been able to get this shot right at the peak of this adventure that I've been, realistically planning for several years, but in my heart have been planning for my whole life. So it
It's so
felt
beautiful.
it felt really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been on many of these road trips that you're speaking of where you have like this epic shot at the end in mind. You have like this as I like to call it like the Mona Lisa, like you just have like
Mm.
this masterpiece at the end. and you always have like this vision, and it's rare that you ever actually get that shot. It almost takes like sometimes years, decades, whatever. And um, I know like what it feels like to get that final shot, and it just feels like absolutely incredible. Like this is why I do this, like you almost like scream and cry the whole way home kind of feeling.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and I want to know like what the fuck compelled you to just mint it and throw it up there and just be like, fuck it, man, I'm putting it out in the world. I gotta know, man. Like I saw that post, I was like, this took balls, man, because I know as an artist, like it's scary to price your work, it's scary to mint your
It
work,
is,
it's
dude.
scary to even fucking post your work. So I'm like, whoa, like he just went for it, and I gotta know, like, what came over you? Why'd you decide to mint it at this price? And by the way, it is at 1 ETH right now with 22
Oh
hours and
my
18 minutes
God.
left. So fucking congratulations. That's amazing. With the highest bidder from Clutch.
Thank you so much. That's crazy. I'm like beaming, like red in the face,
I bet,
smiling
dude.
about that. Yeah,
And I know
I
like what a
love.
humble like dude and artist you are, so I know you actually are like like literally just beaming right now.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I am. I am like smiling ear to ear. Yeah. So I took the shot and I shared it with a few people. I shared it with my mom
Of course.
first. I
Of
sent it
course.
to my mom. I sent it to my partner. I sent it to my best friend, who's also an incredibly well known photographer, Kath Simard, who
Shout out to
we
Kath.
shout out to Kath. Like we kind of bounce things off each other. So I shared this photo, and everybody had the same initial reaction to it. Like this is beyond your work. Like this is beyond your art. Which I mean, I feel like any really intimate interaction with an animal in the wild is like outside of the scope of your skill, your talent, your abilities as an artist, whatever it is. This is now like a collaboration between you and this creature and the photo that they allowed you to take of them.
Totally.
And so everybody had the same reaction of like, look, like I'm proud of you for taking this shot, but like there's something else going on here. Like this is like a piece of magic. Like this is like a special moment. Um and and I just felt like I felt like maybe the point of this photo wasn't to get, the highest price or the biggest bid or the most hype or like whatever. I felt like maybe the point of this photo was to reconnect this very powerful creature, this old god, with humans through my art. Maybe I can be a somewhat of just like a vessel to share this incredible like powerful creature with anybody who comes across this photo. And maybe that's the point more than anything. And so in my head, what that led me to was to not mint it at all. So in my head, I was just like, okay, well, if this photo I want it to live beyond me and my work and my portfolio and like whatever else. If I want this photo to be kind of something more spiritual, more ethereal, then maybe it doesn't need to be sold at all. And at that point is when Penny Redbeard reached out, and he had the exact opposite opinion. And he said, if like I believe this photo is special, so let's just see where it goes. You know what I mean? Just trust in the universe. Trust that 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 the universe will take care of this image, and that it will go wherever it needs to go, to whoever it needs to go to. And I took that encouragement to heart. And I really, really, really was touched by the amount of people who responded to the image and liked it and loved it. I got a lot of people coming to me telling me like, I've never felt the way that I felt looking at a wildlife photo as I do looking at this photo. Like there's something special about it. And so it just kind of clicked in my head. Okay, so instead of instead of believing that this image is special beyond my work, that way I don't really make it a part of my, you know, collectible work at all. Let me do what Penny said and just put it into the universe and not really worry about it. And let me tell you, I have never felt so like emotionally secure or detached from releasing a piece as an auction, because it genuinely doesn't feel like it's a part of my work. It feels like this kind of larger thing that will impact and touch whoever it needs to. And I'm honestly very just grateful to have been able to create the shot. I feel like incredibly humbled. So yeah, just I think a mix of just listening to the advice of good people in my life, and very grateful for that.
That's I think that's kind of like the best situation, like when you kind of just go to the people that you trust, ask them their advice, ask them what they think you should do, but ultimately like you went with your gut feeling, which I think is like every artist, like it's hard to do this type of thing, and you definitely put yourself out there, and I respect the fuck out of it, man. It's really
Thank
cool
you,
that you
John.
did this. Yeah, dude. I want to know, you didn't put it like on Foundation or Super Rare. You kind of just like went with your own platform, own contract. Was there any particular reason that you kind of just wanted to do this on your own?
I think kind of in line with the rest of the rest of how I feel about the photo. I think I always get really drawn to like I don't know, the numbers and the bots that pop up saying, X sold to who for X amount and like whatever. I mean, I get really invested in that, and
Yeah.
especially with my own work, and I just wanted to kind of remove that as well. I just wanted to let this piece, just genuinely let this piece go. and
Yeah.
and and I think just a custom private manifold auction felt like the best way to do that, and not have the piece kind of tied to really anything, to platform, to curation, to
Right.
um a titled or a branded drop of any kind. I thought about it for a moment, and I've genuinely never felt so good about releasing a photo with nothing attached to it. And I've also never done that my whole time here. All the years I've been in Web3, I have never released an auction in the way that I did this photo. So this is all kind of new for me too, but it felt right, so I did it.
No, I think it was a good call, man. Like I think at some point, like it's interesting because like you took the pinnacle of like I feel like of your portfolio, and you just put it out there, and I feel like a lot of artists wouldn't really like have the courage, or maybe like they just wouldn't want to do that. So I think it's really cool, man. Like I really respect it. I really do. Um, the image itself, is it going to be available ever for print, or will this just be the NFT?
I think what I would like to do is see where it goes with this auction, which I mean, it very well might end up going to clutch for an ETH, and I would be thrilled about that. I think I want to see where it goes, who it goes to, and I think I
Okay.
would love to do something like physical with this piece in maybe another way that I've never really done before. I think most of my physical pieces are these really sort of grand productions where they're these like massive frame kind of like artisan ordeals, and they come in a crate, and you get like white gloves and a stamp. Like, I mean, it's
Oh,
a
I
whole
get it.
thing. Yeah,
Yep.
I know you do. I
Oh,
know
I
you
get
do.
it.
And
Yep.
I think I'd maybe like to do something totally different again with this piece. I'm kind of thinking like really, really accessible, in the same spirit of just sharing this moment with as many people as possible and kind of like removing my brand out of it. I have been thinking about like a really large scale, affordable, smaller, unframed, like a, small ordered print that can be stuck and packed and framed and like whatever you want to
Hell
do
yeah.
with it, which again, I've never done. So I like the idea of new things that scare the hell out of me coming from this image and this
Dude,
ox. So
I love that, and here's why, man. When we first got into NFTs, I remember the big discussion being the Mona Lisa and the gift shop, and all the posters in the gift shop, and did they, what, like, did this bring value? Did this hurt value? Right? And I remember us always saying the more exposure that a piece got, the more value it became. So it's like memes, mimetic value came from, that's like when all those like giant memes were selling for just stupid amounts of money. And
right,
if you think about like the more exposure an image gets, the more it's out there, the more people, the more notoriety, the more valuable essentially the NFT becomes because it's kind of like the original certificate. Like
right.
that's like that's the negative. That's the film negative right there that you own. So I think like yeah, I think mass releasing this, like I would never advise anyone how to price their work or how much quantity to release. But since you have mentioned this, I 100% agree. And I think it's a really, really cool idea because the more exposure this image gets, the more it brings not only the value to the NFT, but I think just value to what your story behind the image is, which I think is your ultimate purpose with this image, which is to share it and just kind of let people really absorb this because you took a piece of this animal, you took a piece of this landscape, you took its soul, you've captured it, and now you want to hand it out to the world. And I think there's really honestly like no better way to do that than this mass type of printing. And as much as biased as I am, because I want to own a piece and not pay a huge fortune, like I would love to pay a few $100s and actually own a print of yours, and
Yeah,
especially this one.
yeah.
So I'm like, as biased as this fucking opinion is, I'm like, yeah, that'd be badass if you did that, dude. Because I'm
Look, man, I'll
100%
take
in
it.
buying that shit.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I'm writing that down as we speak.
Because yeah, like I know how much it costs to produce those giant pieces, so I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
if you're gonna mass produce this, I'm so in.
Thank you, man. I really am leaning towards that, and you'll be the first to know. So I appreciate that.
Good. I better be, man, because I really do want to own this in my house. Like, this is a beautiful piece, dude. So,
Thank you, John.
I know you're like sitting out. I saw in video like you literally are in a parking lot in the Arctic Circle right now,
Yeah.
using
Yep.
Starlink. So, I don't want to keep you on here for too long. I want to
All
catch up
good.
with you next time. Yeah, and I like want
Yeah.
to hear your
Yeah.
whole journey, like how you got into photography, everything, because it is an actual fascinating story. I mean, you lived out of a fucking fire truck, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Like your story is wild.
Yeah.
So next
Thank you,
time, let's
man.
catch up. Let's go through the whole story. I wanted to do an
Yeah.
emergency live podcast just so we could get this out there to get everybody aware of like this drop.
Thank you so
And
much,
yeah,
man.
yeah, and just to dive into it. It's a beautiful piece, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. Is there anything else you want to talk about this piece or anything else you want to mention at all?
Honestly, just I mean, a huge thank you to you. I mean, the kind of like love that you've shown the piece, and the fact that you reached out almost immediately and said, "Hey, like, come on the podcast. Let's crank it out." I mean, it was like 10 p.m. last night, and you said, first thing in the morning, like, call me. Let's get this pod out. That just means the world to me. So yeah, honestly, just huge thank you to you and your tenacity and love that you show me, and honestly, more people in this space have felt the kindness that you show than I think almost anybody. So I appreciate that. Thank
Dude,
you, John.
thank you so much, man. I honestly, I did this because I really do want to see this piece get the most exposure possible. It really hit me, like Kath said, like your mom said, like anyone you've showed this to, it really did hit me in an interesting way. And it is beyond your art, and that's not in like a negative way whatsoever. But this is beyond anything you've ever done, in my
Mm,
opinion. And it is kind of like how they phrased it, beyond your art. It is a very perfectly good way to phrase that. It is an incredible. It's not beyond your talent. It's not, but in this piece, your ambition and your tenacity and your dedication 100% shows in this image. So congrats, man, to you on this beautiful piece. I can't wait to see it win many, many awards. Um, congrats on the
Thank you,
bid from
John.
Clutch. Yeah, of course, dude. I can't wait to see these bids go higher. It's going to be an interesting bidding war at the end. And where can people find you? Where can they find your work? Where can they find your projects? All that stuff before we end this.
Everything that I have to offer is on Twitter and my website. Jubbish.com, and it's JubbishJ on Twitter. And that's it.
Jubbish.com and JubbishJ on Twitter.
That's me.
Beautiful. Beautiful, man. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to get this out there immediately. It'll be unedited and just out there. So I will
Perfect.
post it as soon as possible. Dude, thank you again for joining me. Let's do this very, very soon again so we can tell your whole
Yeah.
story, bro.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. Dude, enjoy your trip. Be safe out there. Don't get eaten by any wolves or grizzly bears, man. And
I'll try my best.
good, dude. It's good to have you, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you, John.
All right, brother. Talk soon.
Bye.
See ya.